You're up.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to this episode of Chill with Jim. I'd like to thank everyone coming out. At Chill with Jim, it is always business up top, and pajamas are still on the bottom. We
Working
haven't
remote.
stopped it. Working remote. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. So, my name is Jim. I am the client advocate for Strix, Louisiana. So it is my job to make sure that our clients are set up with the best software solutions, the best equipment, and the best possible IT solutions that are out there. And we also have David DeArmond on the line with us.
Hey, everybody. I am David DeArmond, owner of Strix, Louisiana. And as owner, I kind of try to keep an eye on everything going on and make some good decisions and point us in the right direction so that our clients can get what they need out of their technology. So that's what I do around here.
Right. A little bit about Strix. So we believe there's always a better, simpler, more secure way of doing just about everything in this world. So what that means is we are constantly uh, reviewing all of our procedures, the way that we do things. We're constantly adapting our approach to make sure that our clients are running at optimal efficiency. Part of that we believe is to help educate our clients as well as others out there. We go over things like the best way to use their current resources. We talk about current tech trends that are going on, and we go over some IT security issues at the same time. We also, once a month, like to throw in some great productivity or bring in some special guests that can share their knowledge with us and their wisdom. And so that's actually what we are doing today. We have a very special guest with us, Vanessa Graham, who is with Vgram, and she is going to be talking today about a little bit about herself, but then also go into managing money during the COVID crisis. So it has been a very interesting year for finances, for businesses, for all of us. And so we're going to be talking about some of those things today. Anybody who is joining in, you can hop on, unmute yourself at any time and ask questions you would like or participate in the discussion. We will kind of start out with a question and answer that we've come up with, that some of our clients have had questions that we're going to ask Vanessa. And then we go into a full on audience participation. So that's a little bit about us. I'd like to go ahead and give it to Vanessa to do a little bit of an intro for herself.
So hello everyone, I'm Vanessa Graham. I recognize a few of you, a couple of my friends out there. I am a CPA and I have a practice here in Baton Rouge and in Lafayette as well. And we provide we serve as a fractional CFO two small businesses in the area. And that looks like just providing financial leadership in a variety of ways and support the entire financial team, the owners, and the management team in providing financial insight as they make decisions in their business. And so this is now our 8th year in business. And prior to that, I had a history as CFO and controller in private equity investment companies, portfolio companies. And so it was natural for me to do this. And so it's been an interesting 8 years of seeing a variety of challenges and hurdles similar to COVID. And so we've been here to help them get through that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Vanessa, thank you very much from all of us at Chill with Jim for joining us, for all of our participants out there in Facebook world. Everybody wants to give you a big thank you, and thank you for all who came on today to participate. So I always like to start with the why. And so, Vanessa, why did you get into financial consulting? Why did you start your own business?
So, so as I mentioned, I was very accustomed to hopping around across businesses, and I worked for private equity investors. This was following my career as an auditor with KPMG. Uh, I went to work in industry, and when you're sitting in that role as controller or CFO, you face a wide audience, both externally and internally. And when you get accustomed to that role of helping others become financially stronger, I just recognize it as a need, and particularly in Baton Rouge, which is full of small businesses. Coming from public accounting, there's not a lot of public companies here in the area, and so you have a lot of people that could really benefit from the access to a skill set that our team has. And so it was sort of a natural transition to help others, and just one I really recognize the need for. So that's how it came to be.
Awesome, awesome. What better way than to help others and other businesses around Baton Rouge? I love your why. So, what is a CFO, and why is it important for a company to have one?
So I would say the difference there in between the financial group at a company and the financial leader there is uh, really that connection to the strategic objectives, to the day-to-day accounting. While we can certainly do the day-to-day accounting, and we've certainly done that, and we're happy to do so, the team needs help connecting to the objectives of the organization. And so we spend a lot of time helping the relationship between the staff, if you will, to what the senior, most often the owner, wants to, why they want the information and what they're trying to get and what they're trying to achieve. Often business owners come to us and they have some hurdles that they want to go through, whether it's go to a different area, whether it's grow their business, shrink their business, whatever that objective is, get more capital, maybe get out of a financial situation. Whatever that goal is, we're helping get through that, and they really need someone who's been down that path before, and so we provide that, and that would be an expensive resource to hire full time. So the small business arena really benefits by having us when they need us like that.
That's great. That's great. That was something I was going to ask. Like what Strix does with their IT. It's very expensive to hire a full staff or just someone to do your IT for you or to do your CFO financial planning like that. So what better way to kind of provide for smaller businesses than an affordable option where they can still get the resources they need?
Right.
Yes, that's great. So what does Vgram offer to their clients? Some of the
In the
services.
day-to-day, so there will be a variety of initiatives that we have going at the same time with the client. So that may be, work with the team, certainly on a day-to-day basis, provide some direction, leadership, support to them, improvement of systems, help with systems, use of systems. Oftentimes, clients are on a variety of applications, none of which speak to each other, which I'm sure you all have faced quite a bit. So that is that causes more trouble for personnel because they're, when the data doesn't come through clean, it's not easy to use. So we know financial systems because we've been in a variety of them, and we're very comfortable with that. We will do special projects like implement financial software. We've done forensic work. We've done, now, let me say, on a regular basis, we will do the financial reporting. We do that every month. And so your audience is beyond just the client, is the banker, the investor, the partner, the owner, a wide variety of these people need the financial reporting. So we do that on a very regular basis for our clients. Forecasting modeling is very much a common deliverable. It is one we're speaking from all the time. You know, just like anybody, a musician reads from music, we read from financial. So every client starts off with a financial model, and from that we report, and from that we analyze, and from that we forecast. So we will build that model out for every client and work from it and fine tune it over time. That's a common deliverable.
Awesome. Awesome. So what size company is a good fit for Vgram?
Certainly at a certain size, they're going to have the CFO in-house. But I've been surprised at even the largest of clients have hired us to fill in just bandwidth that maybe their current CFO doesn't have. So many of our clients actually do have a CFO, and we've just provided help on a project basis. So they have been anywhere from largest that we've served has been 70 million, and the smallest we've served has been certainly $1 million. There's plenty of $1 million businesses. So at the point that they need help is often above, above $1 million. And that's not to say we haven't helped smaller, but that's where they have a banker, they have a partner, they have some challenges that they want to address.
Okay. Okay. And then, so you talked a little bit about the approach, but can you go into a little more detail about, if let's say I'm a new client of yours, what's that approach going to look like on my side of things? That's
a good question. So it's very customized. We have teams, often of 2, and so we get to know the team there on the other side, and that's the entire team. So operations as well as the financial side, and we provide some cadence with which we are in touch with them on a regular basis. And not to say we're not always there for them, we are, because we're connected via email and phone and everything in between. But we are in constant communication with them, and depending on their level of initiatives going on and their level of just their size and complexity of their systems and whatnot, and challenges that they're going through, is the amount of effort the amount of time we're spending with them that particular month. So it's very flexible. It goes up and down every month. It meets their whatever needs they have going on, and we flex to whatever's going on in the phases that they're going through.
Flexibility, very important. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, sorry to jump in on you there, Jim. You mentioned something as you were talking there, that you start having the conversations, you talk to the financial people, but you're talking to the operations people as well. And that stood out to me. What does that conversation look like? What are y'all talking about?
So the operations, the head of operations needs financial data to run the business, and they often are very good at the mechanics of the business, but they need that how their outcomes impact the entity financially. So they need financial data, and we need their operational metrics that make the financial data make sense. So we really need to come together with those parts. Now, back office people that we connect with, obviously IT, we're going to want to get close to those people. That's where the systems are. That's where access to systems are. And that's where there's a lot of opportunity that clients haven't taken advantage of in their systems. And so we want to connect with the IT group for that, to make the most of what's there. So, so use of other professionals that are already helping their clients is important, whether that's internal or external.
Yeah. So you get real in depth. That's great to hear. What are some of the benefits that a company can start to notice after they've become your client?
So our goal is always to get them to a better place, and honestly, to work yourself out of the relationship. I mean, we'd like to be with them forever, and we'd like to help through all initiatives, and have had the opportunity to be with our clients for a very long time. But the idea is to get them to a better place, to get them more efficient, to get them more effective at financial reporting and analysis, and to educate them more so that they can take that ball and run with it as far as they can without the need for help. That is the goal. Oftentimes what happens is we move to some other initiative because the client base is very entrepreneurial. They always have a new idea, and there is, always a new thing to be jumping into. So oftentimes we are moving with the new idea of the day. Let's say.
Awesome.
The new
Awesome.
shiny object.
Yeah, that's what we call them here at Strix, shiny objects. Like, ooh, shiny object. So it sounds amazing. I really enjoy hearing some of the similarities that our companies have. Getting very involved, getting to know the people of the company from all directions, and then you made a really good point about communicating with those external parties as well, because you really need to get all of the pieces of that puzzle to start putting things together. So I love the approach. Now, we've heard a little bit about it, but in your opinion, what sets Vgram apart from other companies that are similar?
So the outsourced work is common in the CFO profession. I mean, in the CPA profession. It is a direction that many of the firms are moving to, and you'll see it as another line of business in the CPA firms. Certainly, all talented people. We have been very fortunate in that is all we do. So we do no assurance work while we're licensed to do audits and tax. We do not do those services. So our firm strictly does outsource financial work, and the reason our team, I think, is unique, or the reason why we have a great bench, is because we've all been in both public accounting and in industry. And I think to have that experience and to know the heartbeat of CEOs and to know what bothers them day in and day out is what makes our team successful and stand out, so to speak.
All right. Good answer. Good answer. So we're gonna we know more about you and more about your company. So we're gonna dive into some COVID related things. I'm sure it's not on anyone's mind, COVID right now, but why not just bring it up? We've all been dealing with it, so we might as well. I think we should start with the question that probably a lot of people out there are wondering. Will the PPP be forgiven?
It should be. It should be. The banks are opening up now to take forgiveness applications, and we've actually run a few for our clients, and they have already been forgiven. So, I'm sorry, they have not received the notice of forgiveness, but they have met the application requirements, submitted the required information, and I think it's going to be a mess if someone reneges on what they've promised, right? So there is still the opportunity for legislation to change. That is true. By and large, the small business community in our area, I have not seen too many, although I know there are, I've not seen a whole lot that would come under great scrutiny. I mean, we helped many clients apply, took them through the application process. From what I could tell, it's all largely used on payroll and the other requirements under the application, and I see no reason why they should not receive forgiveness.
Great news. Great news. So when the PPP first was instituted or first came out, for us, I know it was kind of like a mad rush. For a lot of companies, they're like, we got to get this in. We got to be part of this. So
everybody's going to be first, right?
Yeah. I picture like the gold rush back in the day, like just everybody rushing towards that money. How did you prepare yourself, your staff, and your clients?
It was a unique time. We had to read a lot, and we had to share a lot. We invested in Teams, in SharePoint and Teams a few years ago, and we, as a team, huddle every week. And so obviously it became important to do that through Teams at that point, because everybody went remote. And it became even greater it was a great example of the need to collaborate and share. because we built templates to run the forgiveness calculation, because clients constantly wanted us to run that forgiveness calculation to make sure they remain compliant. So when we kind of developed our own templates for that and approach to that, we needed to share that, obviously. And so, and you know, accountants love some spreadsheets. And so we have got some spreadsheets. We are some spreadsheet jockeys. And so, so that, along with the new material that was constantly coming out, we sat on our own share of webinars and things like that. And obviously our profession provides all of that for us. So we, you know, could sit on those technical calls, and all of our clients, we work with a variety of banks. So we had the great opportunity to receive feedback across many institutions and share that amongst each other, what each of us was learning from our clients' financial institutions, and share that across each other. So it was a great, no, it was just a great example of collaboration, I would say.
Okay. Wow. Have you ever experienced, so you've been in, your business has been open for 8 years, but you've been doing financial services for 20 years. So is 25. Okay. So
She
I
started
knew
when she was 10.
Right. Right.
David, the brown noser over there. So have you experienced anything similar to this year in times past?
I mean, this definitely takes the cake, because it will
Okay.
not end. Right. It will not. Just maybe the hurricane is going to take it. But I mean, we certainly had Baton Rouge certainly went through the flood. We went through the BP oil spill, and certainly the fair share of hurricanes. So not to say those are the same, but significant impact to businesses and need to get back on your feet. We've certainly faced that, you know. So not our firm per se, but our client base, you know. So and which certainly impacts us, you know. So you definitely hold your breath as you watch everybody, you know, hold their own, right? So
yeah. Okay. And then I know we talked about the PPP, but were there any other, you know, important loans or financial topics that have kind of stuck out to you throughout the COVID, like that have been offered, or is there anything else out there?
I mean, you know, there's the EIDL. I mean, the SBA is definitely, there's a variety of programs. And I would say that I would think many, when they went to that site, they learned probably more about the many programs that are out there, would have been offered to them in any time, even outside of COVID. But they did have the EIDL loan that many didn't talk about, because when they, you know, when they heard about forgiveness, they instantly went there first, right? And so, and then now you have the some state programs and things like that. So there are other avenues, and the banks are starting to talk again about traditional lending. So that activity is starting, albeit it's quiet, but it is starting. And so that's where we really need to get, is back to where people can get back to talking with their banker about regular financing, you know.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I hope that comes back around soon. It's good to hear that there's talks and that it's starting to open back up. So a lot of these companies, smaller businesses, have had a tough year with revenue. We all are probably feeling it in some way, but besides the housing market, which is just booming. Do you have any suggestions on financial recovery coming forward in the future?
I was very pleasantly surprised at the number of our clients who said, they look to us to take this time to look at their business and how they could come out of this differently. In other words, is this a time to restructure it? Is this a time to have a different model on the other side? I know everybody had to go remote, and that, you know, all that is, we all know that, but there were people who took this opportunity to analyze themselves and say, did they need to split their businesses up and market it differently, market different divisions differently? Did they need to focus on more certain products and not others, certain lines of businesses and not others. And then of course there was the focus on people, you know, who did you, the PPP obviously protected a lot of payroll. So there became a greater focus on what do I do with my resources and what is the best use for them? And are there things we could build and invest in personally? I mean, speaking of IT, could we look to our IT resources and spend the time to be better on the other end? There's no greater time, you know, if you could get past the panic, which is hard for CEOs, but if you could get past that and focus on what would make you better during this time, there were several who did that. That surprised me, that did.
That's great to hear. That's what a way to come out of this, you know, concentrating more on like, how do I adapt? Let's take a look inward and find where we can better ourselves. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that you had so many clients looking at it that way, instead of talking people off the ledge. So,
Right.
so, you know, and let's hope this never type of situation, this doesn't happen again. But what's a good way for companies to prepare themselves for another financially tough year like 2020?
I think this may go without saying, but if there was any lesson to be learned, it's that you needed a very good balance sheet before you went into this. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So you needed a great, a healthy balance sheet, not a great balance sheet, but you need a healthy balance sheet before you entered into this. So for a great example is if your line was fully extended before you entered into COVID, you obviously faced inordinate stress coming out of it. You know, when you ran out of the PPP funds and you still needed access to capital, if you have no line, they're going to put you in a tough spot, right? So to monitor that, you know, businesses became more in tune with their finances through this because they were forced to see under the hood, below. If you take off the PPP funds, what did the business look like? Because they're focused on how they're going to come out now that those funds are running out, which is about this time. So the use of those funds. So I think it's the, you know, focus on the balance sheet, which is not something business owners like to talk about a whole lot. They like to talk about that income statement. So focus on the balance sheet has become more popular than it was before.
Okay. And then, so through this year, do you have any client stories that stick out in your mind that you'd like to share with our audience?
Let's see. There was, we worked with one large client that had grown, and just an old business that had was using several different applications, you know, for sales, one for actually ledger systems across different divisions even, and decided they were already toying with the idea of implementing software that would bring all those together and reduce cost by simply being on one platform and not five. And so they decided to proceed with that and use the downtime of the resources because they could project manage themselves, you know, because they had resources to do it because they were protected by PPP and they could be billable half the time, but could use their mindset the rest of their skill set the rest of the time. And so they did that. And so when they came out on the other side, they were more efficient because they didn't have so many clunky processes because of so many systems. And they did go down that path. And we were part of that implementation to get them through that. So
major success.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely. That once you can get it all in like that, that's we should like to say one pane of glass, but you know, you have all these moving pieces. If you can kind of bring them in and weed out the ones you can do with another system that you already have, it's perfect. So, well, those were the questions that we've come up with that, you know, I said we've kind of thought about asking you, but also some of our client base wanted to ask you. And so this is the point in the webinar where we open it up for anyone that's out there to ask a question. to engage in the discussion in any way that they would like. So I would like to go ahead and open it up to anyone who's joining us. If you had any questions, any experiences that you'd like to share, now is a perfect time.
That's
We got
okay.
somebody, let's see, that's Trey raising his hand here. Trey, go ahead.
Hey guys, thank y'all. Just kind of a question, and it may be difficult to answer because it's probably industry specific, but you mentioned about forecasting and modeling, and it seems like so much obviously changed through the last 2.5, 3 quarters. I guess what's your advice on how do you maybe readjust your modeling and forecasting, and what would you say is a good advice moving forward for looking at next year? And then are there any good just economic indicators that would give clients ideas of that the economy is growing versus trying to understand that from what maybe media or we may be just hearing in the scuttle? So it's kind of curious about two things: the modeling, readjusting, and then ultimately, how do you prepare for growth when that time is coming?
Right. So the modeling and forecasting first, one of the approaches we did take, and in each one is different, we customize to that particular client situation. So let me preface with that. But we have on many an occasion through this help take the client down to, if it was smaller, not just, oh, I have to cut people, but like, how could you go back in time to when you first started, and at what level you were at a comfortable level of client base and a comfortable level of staff, and how could you do things very efficiently, and what did it cost? And then go back in time and look at replicating that going forward. Like if you had to rebuild yourself in a sense, and model to that and think about going in that direction. That is one of the approaches we took with one client that, because a lot of businesses have been doing the same thing for a long time, and they've made tweaks along the way, but they've gotten to a point where they are using different systems, and they don't know what Susie's doing over there. And Susie might be taking them off in a direction that doesn't align with Bob's direction over here, and so that lack of alignment has causes a time like this to be troublesome, right? And so some realignment, relooking at what people do, and to make it real efficient, and what does that look like, and then focus on doubling it and what's needed to double it. So kind of go back in time and move forward. And so we've modeled that out for clients so that they could play with that model and adjust as they go forward with those plans. I hope that answers your question. And if it doesn't, I'll be happy to give you another example.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
On the economic trends, that is a hard one. We are staying close to the financial institutions. They serve a lot of people, and obviously, I think what's hard right now is that there are some businesses doing very well at this time. And so it's hard to find the indicators right now of what to focus on, of what is a measure of the economy right now. I will say that it is. So I think you have to focus on yourself and what works for your business and the metrics for your own self. Like we just had a client that's happens to be doing well, and we're looking at what's causing its working capital to be so strong, because working capital is what's going to get people through this time, and what's driving that. And so that's the metric. That's what we're focused on. And the productivity to produce that type of working capital is what we're focused on, because that will make them successful. That's not what their neighbor is doing and not what their competitor is doing, but that is what is feeding them a good balance sheet, which is enabling them to carry forward without leaning on their bank so hard.
Awesome. Great question,
Thank
Trey.
you. That was great. Appreciate that.
David,
I
you
need
look
to
like
get
you
your
Yeah,
picture on my screen.
had
I have questions for Vanessa, but I want to make sure I can talk to her at other times. I want to make sure our guests have a chance, but let me go with one of them here, Vanessa. So if you have a company that is already behind, like, they weren't watching their balance sheet before they came into this, they're overextended. How do they even approach recovering right now? What do you do to try to recover and to get back in business, or just survive?
And we've been through that quite a bit with people that's troubled debt situations. And we've seen them to success. And in fact, the place that I was CFO of before I started my own business, when I got under the hood, was insolvent. The bank had not claimed it yet, but they were insolvent. And we did turn it around, and it is possible. It does require cutting deals with a lot of vendors and going through a workout situation. I mean, if it's that extreme, right? But you get to where, again, that balance sheet, everything that drives it, and you touch all the vendors, all the customers, and you again go back to like a smaller size of yourself, and you look to rebuild the business. And it is possible through communication, but you want to put your lenders and your partners on notice before they put you on notice.
Okay.
You want to be in control of that conversation, because you could get out of it, but what banks don't like are the surprise. That's when they take action, because they perceive the customer is not doing anything about it.
Right. So if you're seeing that you're going to have trouble, it makes the most sense to go ahead and reach out to whoever.
That doesn't mean
looking.
air your dirty laundry, but it just means you come forward with your plan. Here's what we're going to do. Here's our plan forward, which is your forecast. Here's my forecast to do this. And you get buy-in of the, get working your way out. I've seen many people do it, and it is possible to get to the other side. Absolutely.
Good question.
The PPP forgiveness. So you said you've got some clients already going through that. Are there any gotchas that you're seeing? That people that what mistakes are you seeing that somebody may make that would disqualify them from forgiveness when they didn't think that was going to happen?
We have not gotten that far yet. I have not seen it that far. Not all the banks are open. The portals are open yet. Mm-hmm. So they are just starting to give notice of opening up to accept applications, like literally this past week. So the banks were slow to open that up, given what happened on the application side, with everybody rushing to get there. And the banks were eager to please, which was a great thing, but they weren't ready for that onslaught of applications. So they were slow to open this time. And that has only very recently happened. And I would have to think that T's are crossed and I's are dotted this time to prevent any surprises. They don't, in fact, we've seen them be very vocal about make sure your documentation is in order. Here is the documentation you need. They are being much more specific about that versus the application was, I will say, of the people we helped, everyone looked completely different. And what they were measuring their forgiveness on was completely different. Versus now, the applications look the same, thus far. I mean, they're going with the SBA application.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns is, they opened the floodgates and you had a limited time, because once the money was gone, the money was gone. So people were jumping in, banks were jumping in. I don't know if anybody was reading anything. Everybody was just jumping in. And so now that you have to get to that point of forgiveness or you got to pay it back, that's where I'm worried. Well, what did my bank not see? What did I not see? What did we not do correct? And now they're going to say, hey, you owe all that money.
Okay. Well, and of course, not that the risk is you won't be forgiven, right? And it goes on your balance sheet. You incur the debt, granted at a low price. So that's the worst that can happen to you.
Yeah. As far as debt goes, it's pretty good debt.
Now, one thing a lot of people aren't paying a whole lot of attention to that they need to is that, remember, the expenses that PPP covered are not deductible. That is a key. So the tax impact to people, if you were profitable you could potentially owe tax
Mhm.
with the PPP money,
Okay.
So,
forgiven PPP money.
so that
That is
that just becomes revenue at that point, or
essentially right, because so if you received $1 million in payroll, if you received $1 million in PPP money to cover $1 million in payroll, well, the $1 million in payroll is not deductible.
Mhm.
So if you made, let's say, $1,001,000, then you were taxed. Let's say you made $1 million. And let's say you had $1 million in revenue and $1 million in expenses, all of which were covered by PPP. Well, then you're taxed on $1 million. You see what I'm saying?
gotcha.
So I would say that's the gotcha in it, the fine print that people didn't really talk about when this first started, from my opinion.
The
talk about the
tax
tax.
implications for next year.
Mm.
Now they're starting to be reminded of that.
Spend, spend, spend.
Mhm.
All right. Anybody else got any? Do we have anything from Facebook coming in, David? Or
Let me check. I'm not seeing any questions yet on Facebook.
okay.
Brad, you're being very nice to me. Brad knows
I don't
me.
have much to say. I just help you get the access. I'm not the one that works with you every day.
Well, that's an example of you working with the IT side of things, then, right?
That's
with
right.
Brad. Okay.
Right. Brad can create some stuff. He can make some stuff happen. There's no doubt.
What was one of the projects that you guys worked on together, or what? Some of those
If you can say.
conversations, if you can say.
Let's see. This is the financial person's description of this. So I'm going to really botch this up. But if you want to dig some data out of something and you want to see it, Brad can find it and he will make it. He will make the easy button so that you can click and get on the screen.
Nice.
Is
So
that
Brad,
the
you
best
just
way to
have
put
a.
it, Brad?
In other words, I think you mean I decipher our CEO.
Oh, well, that too. That's going to go unsaid, right? In case we're on a
Translation
loudspeaker
there.
over there.
I
Right?
translate. Okay.
He translates very well. He creates the easy button, right? He is the easy button in an atmosphere that is not easy. Let's put it that way.
I know for me and having conversations with you, Jim asked you, what do you guys do different? Why is Vgram different than others? And you kind of touched on it, but what really stands out to me in having conversations with you and other CPAs, most CPA firms, most financial people, they do things the old school way. They're very traditional, and that's the way. This is the way you count beans, and you don't ever change the way you count these beans. This is how you do it. And what I've enjoyed in our conversations is your willingness to do things a little bit different, to embrace a technology that most financial people wouldn't embrace, and to just approach things different. To me, that's the thing that stands out most with you guys. So I wanted to make sure that was said.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I did in my early career, was part of a technology company. And so I was taught a great deal about what data could be accessed quickly and used and put together with other data to make sense of. And so I have a great appreciation for the other side of the house, if you will. So thank you for that. We do strive to be the different bean counter.
Sometimes is that a hard conversation to have, where you have a client that's set and always doing things a certain way, but Vgram's coming with this new solution? Do you get some pushback, or is there a lot of discovery? Like, well, let me show you what this is all about. How does that work?
Very carefully. Yes, there's a lot of that. Yes, and I'm the daughter of a banker and a CPA myself. So on the backside, I am conservative by nature. Um, and yes, we have certainly rules and all that we abide by, and so we appreciate why the banks require certain things and why the tax accountant requires certain things. We certainly appreciate it, and so we play the role of trying to translate that and trying to guide clients' way of doing things in a way that where they can appreciate where the boundaries are and still allow them to make the decisions and run things the way they want to, but yet stay within the rules that they have to play within. So, and yeah, we spend a lot of time educating on that and working through that conversation. Careful.
Walking on eggshells a little bit. Yep. So what?
They're not too bad. They just like to blow and go a lot, you know.
So what? When you're looking at a client's mindset, what are some of the important things that when the people that you like to work with most, what are some of those things that are some key characteristics? Like, sounds like open-mindedness needs to be there. Do you have any other things that just really makes you click and get a really strong bond with certain clients?
The ones that have an appreciation for having a plan. I know people don't always want to run with a plan, but those that can articulate some plan that they have, and have an appreciation for that it will take some systems are a great example. A lot of people want to get straight to the answer and want to skip over correcting their systems. That's a great example that we can all relate to. Somebody that will appreciate that would help their cause to spend time in that area is a flexible person, a person who's willing to step into an area that they're not comfortable with. And that makes it easier. Certainly. They're not all like that, but a lot of people want to get their answers quick. For instance, if they want to buy out a partner, they may not want to go through all the steps it takes to get there, and they just want you to handle it. Those that are willing to hear the attorney out and really think about it and prepare for it and talk about it. I'm not saying that's the best way, but it's an appreciated, that level of planning is appreciated. And things are better when they're planned, but not everybody does that, but that's ideal if people will take the time to spend time with you and help you totally get in their mind and understand everything you're facing and spend that time on the front end. And I'm just talking about a couple hours. I'm not talking about spending a month together, but when they will relay, open their door and totally lay out everything that's going on and vet all of the scenarios of everything they're facing, we can plan better going forward,
Gotcha.
So I know for us, we get very often questions on personal computing. So somebody's own, we get people that want us to come hook up their TV to their sound system and all of that. And that's not necessarily where we are strong, but we generally have some sort of advice at least. And when I think about COVID and what's going on right now, I know that people personally are having a lot of difficulties in many different areas. So do you have advice for people on a more personal level on how to approach money? Is there, or how to recover? Is it the same advice that you would say for business, watch the balance sheet and that sort of thing, or is it different on a personal level?
So oftentimes the personal level gets very much into tax planning and that type of estate planning type stuff. If it's that type of question, then that's more your financial planners, which are more tax people. We are not tax people. I have an appreciation for it in business, and I know when to call and I know what questions to ask, but I'm not going to be the solver of the tax problem. So So we certainly keep our handful of resources and partners to go to for those issues. Oftentimes our clients are, not all, but often the companies are owned by someone. And so their livelihood is their business. And so it is personal, and that you are somewhat managing what cash flow that owner needs back to themselves. So we are often part of that savings plan, if you will. Like there's a personal goal there that we're helping them meet by helping manage that business. There's a certain cash flow that they personally need. I mean, their business is in the business. So to that end, we are helping them personally. When it gets outside of our area, that's when I know who to call.
Gotcha.
Have a good network of people, sounds like. Solution provider. Open it up. We got a few more minutes. Just wanted to see if we had any more questions out there, or anyone wanted to speak about working with Vanessa. I don't know if Debbie's at a good spot where she could come on, and I know I'm calling you out, but get a little more interaction before we head out.
Okay, good. Yeah, I have had several opportunities with Vanessa, and we have an upcoming situation. She's going to help me on some new things in my role here with QRI. So I'm really looking forward to meeting with her maybe sometime next week. I have nothing but good things to say about Vanessa.
Joey.
Yeah, but yeah, that's and Brad's my next door neighbor. He and I interact a lot, so he gives me a little insight on Strix. Is that correct? Strix.
Strix, that's right.
Strix. Yeah, he's giving me a little insight in on the podcast, so I may be joining to listen as well. So I'm excited
Appreciate
about
that.
And we're getting ready to prepare for the hurricane shortly, so it's getting ugly out there. So we just do our best and stay safe.
Thank you,
All
Debbie.
So thank you.
Thanks for coming on. I
Oh,
appreciate
thank you. Yeah.
putting you on the spot like that, but had to ask. It's it's always okay to ask.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. David, you said you had a few more. Did you have anything else you wanted to run by her real quick while we got her?
I think she's covered most of everything that I have here. So yeah, I'll think of something later though.
Well, awesome. Thank you, everybody who came out and joined us. All those out in Facebook land, we appreciate you tuning in. We will have this on our YouTube channel, so if you got some snippets or you had to come in a little bit late or had to leave a little early, we'll have it on our YouTube so you can go back and get some of that wisdom that was shared with us today. Vanessa, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Having me. Appreciate it.
You've been a wealth of knowledge, and we really appreciate it. And for all the people who came on the Zoom and who participated, your support means a lot to us. And so thank you. David, what's on the schedule for next week?
Yeah, so we had to rearrange some things actually for next week. We were going to save this episode, but I guess with COVID, everything's different. So next week we're going to be talking about the best tech gift ideas for holiday shoppers. We were going to wait until Black Friday, the Wednesday before Black Friday, so that everybody, just like PPP when it opened up. To me, I was thinking Black Friday, like everybody just rushing through the doors. But all of the deals are going on right now already, so we had to move that episode up. Jim's going to talk to us about some really good tech gift ideas for you holiday shoppers, and what may be the good things out there. And just so you know, if you're a normal Black Friday shopper, a lot of stores are not going to be open for Black Friday this year. We have learned that here in the last week. So come listen to Chill with Jim, and then you can order everything online.
Yep. And any of the tech ideas that I give you as gifts, you can go ahead and send them to Strix. You just put Jim McCarthy's name on them, and they will be well received. I promise you. So just
So you're just going to be putting the things you want.
I-
That's what you're going to talk about.
no idea what you're talking about. So we hope to see you all next week as well. Same chill time and same chill network. 2 o'clock every Wednesday. And thank you all for coming out one more time. And we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
Thank you.
Vanessa.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, Vanessa.
Thank you. Thank you.